Hey, my name's Luke David Robinson, and I'm trading my way up to my dream car. A while ago, I bought a beta of a car for just £180, and I fixed it and flipped it for profit and repeated the process again and again. Will I ever find my way to that dream car of mine? Who knows, but it's sure gonna be fun trying. This is Talksteer, running down a dream.
Hey, Talksteer, Luke here, and welcome back to another episode of Running Down a Dream. And on today's episode, we are tackling the bodywork on the 205 GTI. Now, I've gone ahead and given this car machine polish, and I am so happy with the results and how this car actually looks now. It looks so straight, it looks so shiny, and it's going to look so good when the plastics actually go into this car, which will be in the next 1 or 2 episodes. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I did to the bodywork of this car, how I've got the paint back to how it should be now, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I'm going to do in the next couple of videos at the end of this video as well. So without further ado, let's get into this, and I hope you enjoy the video. Right, well, let's kick this off. We've got some stuff that's arrived in the last couple of days in the post. So, big bag of microfibers, which are going to be very useful for the polishing upstage, because I ran out of everything. Now, I've got some sandpaper here. I've opted for 3M 1500. This is going to be for wet sanding the clear coats down on the 205. And this is quite expensive sandpaper, to be honest. For just a few sheets, it's about £20. But I found 1500 grit is that weird grit where if you get poor quality sandpaper, you're going to get some big bits of grit in there, which are really going to scratch the paint. So it's that grit where you really do need to make sure that's high quality and you're going to get nice consistent results. Also, to make sure that I don't completely burn through the paint, doing it by hand, I bought a sanding block as well to give me a nice even stroke. Then I bought some black dye. I'm curious to see what this product's like. The reviews are really good on Amazon. Can't find anything on YouTube, so I might do a review of this in the near future. This is not going to be shown for a while, but this is going to be for some of the exterior trims, and let's see how that actually goes. Got some more compounds because I ran out of my H802. It's a very good compound, this I really like it. In terms of reflectivity and finish, the bonnet was definitely the best panel on the car. But I started off with that panel just because I wanted to see what the optimal results could be like. And I was really impressed with how it turned out. Now, when you looked at the bonnet beforehand, you thought, hey, that looks pretty good, that's acceptable. If the rest of the car looks like that, you'd be pretty happy. So I was really surprised with the difference of the before the polish and after the polish on the bonnet. It was still an insane difference. Now, you did feel when you ran your hands over the bonnet that it was still rough before the polish. And obviously, rough paint means it's not going to be reflecting very well because light's not going to be bouncing off it in a very uniform manner. After the polish, it just felt like glass, so it was lovely. And that got me really excited for the rest of the car. That's it, to be honest, I've got 2 of the same reflection. So here's the difference in how this car looks. Over this side, that's what the paint looks like before the machine polish. So you can see the haze that's on it. Get to it now after the machine polish, and it's just so much better. So yes, this looks so much better than over there. So really happy about this is coming up. It's going to look fantastic when it comes out of the artificial lights and actually gets outside and see in real lighting, because any of these tiny imperfections, they're not going to show up on the car outside. It's just because I got overhead fluorescents or LEDs, bright ones showing up. They're going to show up any little imperfections on the paintwork. You can actually hear the difference between the smoothness more than you can see it. So if I run my hands over the polished surface, very quiet. Go over to the unpolished. It's weird about the inconsistency with the paintwork on this car, with some panels looking pretty good and others pretty bad, and this is visually one of the worst panels on the car in terms of its finish. You can see how much orange peel there is, and this reflection here you're seeing of the light in the ceiling. Now there's 2 bars to the LED lights, and you can't really see them at all in this, so I'm guessing by the time we're finished, we're going to be able to see that quite clearly. The first thing I want to do is, before I go ahead and do any type of wet sanding to the car, is actually see how well it comes back with just the compound first. Heavy compounds, that is, but still, it's much less aggressive than using some sandpaper. So I might be surprised with how good it comes back, who knows. So let's go ahead, get some of our Koch Chemi on here and see what a couple of passes with an aggressive pad does to the car. Wow. Wow, okay. That surprised me a lot. The finish is relatively good. I don't think this is going to need wet sanding at all. I'll be perfectly happy with that finish. Everything under these lights is going to be over-exaggerated as well in terms of orange peel and defects. So once I get this outside, I'm pretty certain this panel's going to look pretty damn good. Yes, I can see just a massive difference between the two. Let me go ahead and grab my LED light and grab the camera, and I'm going to show you close up the difference between how that panel was and is now. So you can see the main light above. It's just orange peel effect. It's very mottled. Now if I take my LED light now, you can see that it's just dispersed. It's one continuous light. Now if I move over to the bit I've just done, suddenly there is individual LEDs showing, and that's much better. I mean, look at the light above the main light. That is so much crisper at the moment. So yeah, that's going to look really good when it gets outside, guys. Again, you can see some defects underneath this light, but LED lights are notorious for showing up defects on the cars, so any car would look pretty much bad under these conditions. So yeah, I'm really happy we haven't had to do any wet sanding, because just look at the difference between the reflection here to the reflection over there. It's so much night and day. In terms of clarity, this is definitely the worst panel on the car, and this is the one I've done. So I'm happy with the paint's finish. It's just that the clear coat on top of it is just a little bit dull. Well, very dull. And you're just not going to get the same type of finish as you would with a proper spray gun. So what I'm going to do is go in with the 1500 grit sandpaper. So this is just some soap in a spray bottle. Before I do anything, probably the most important thing to do is make sure that the panel is free from any dirt and debris. If you get any dirt underneath here, it's going to scratch the paintwork like crazy. So I just want to make sure that this is as clean as it possibly can be. So with this, I'm just going to be very gentle and be sure not to focus too much on one spot. I'm just going to let the weight of the sanding block do the work, really. It's especially important to be careful around creases. So there's a crease running down a body line here. Thankfully on the 205s the body lines are very, very soft, but still want to make sure that you don't spend too much time on them, because what's going to do is create a high point and it's going to very easily just run down and burn through the paint. So while I'm doing this, I've got to periodically stop and see what the condition of the panel's like. What I'm looking to do here is get a uniform haze over the panel. So I'm just going to give it a second to dry off. High spots, the peaks are dull because they've been sanded, and the low spots, the valleys, are more shiny at the moment because they have not been sanded yet, and we need to get down to the same level, and then we'll buff it up and get shiny in the right way. So that's why it's got this kind of two-tone mottled look to it at the moment, which is exactly what we're looking for at the moment, but we actually need to get this now down to uniform haze, so it's just completely dull all over the panel. And then we can go in with our machine polisher, and with any luck, the panel will come back and be lovely and shiny and match the bonnet. At this stage, it's important not to actually go too smooth, because it's orange peel to the rest of the car. It's not a perfect paint job, so you just want it to match essentially what the bonnet's like, which does have a slight orange peel effect to it. If you get this too smooth, then the rest of the body panels will look odd compared to it, so it's just blending it in to that type of finish. So now I've gone ahead and done the 1500 grits for a couple of minutes on the panel, don't want to go too much. Now it's time to go ahead with the machine polisher, stick some on here, and let's see what the difference is in terms of the brightness. As I moved around the car, I noticed a few more problems with the paint job, and one of the worst offenders was on the near side rear quarter near the window, and there was just a really bad run in the clear coat, so of course I had to do something about that, and the only thing I could do was sand it. But that was a bit of a nerve-wracking experience in the fact that because it was such a big run, that I needed to be really careful that I didn't sand the surrounding areas down whilst I was also trying to tackle the clear coat run. Now initially I tried using the sanding block, and that was just too big for such a small area concentrated, so in the end I used a very small piece of sanding paper and used my fingers on it, which sometimes you've got to be very careful doing that because you do end up putting the pressure in one specific spot. But in this case, that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted a specific place to put the pressure and not an area instead. Another thing you might notice as well on this shot and the one before, you might notice a little bit of like mold and such around the car. Like you can see there's a bit of debris in the window of this car and underneath the mirror on the last one. Now, is that me being lazy at the moment? And absolutely not. It's the case that I can't really get much water on this car at the moment, so I've gone ahead and cleaned the parts of the car that I'm going to be touching with sandpaper and the machine polisher. But the little nooks and crannies, that stuff I need to do when I go outside and get a proper detail and brush and maybe a pressure washer on a low power setting and actually try and blast some of that deeper dirt out of there. But this is not going to affect the finish of the car at the moment. So once I get the car on its wheels, that's something I'm going to do. So the car will have a second wash later on. Right, now we need to tackle the masking lines of running across the top of the roof. There's a very sharp line running across where masking tape's been and clear coat's been applied to the car, but when it's been removed, it's left a rough edge which actually needs to be sanded down. So here I've got some 1500 grit sandpaper, some soapy water in a spray bottle, and it's literally a case of just coming in and very carefully sanding down the edges of the roof to make sure that goes smooth. But most importantly, they don't actually go through the paintwork at the same time. So this is where you just got to be super gentle, super careful, and make sure not to actually go too far, because we're actually on a ridge on the edge here, and it's going to be super easy to actually burn through the paint. And if you do that, then we've got a big problem. So I'm not aiming for 100% correction here, because the further you go, the more chance of burning through the paint, and that's not something that it's more preferable to have slight mask line and still have clear coats on there than going the other way around. So it's literally just a case of allowing the weight of the sanding block to just go over the roof, over the line, and try and get a high point down low. And I'm just really feeling with my fingers more than anything to see when it feels fairly smooth. Well, the roof is both looking and feeling a lot better at the moment. Obviously it's a bit dull in places where the sandpaper's gone over, but this is where we're going to go ahead now with the machine polisher and buff the roof back up. And when that's done, the paintwork on the car is pretty much completed. Well, that's where we're up to on the 205 GTI at the moment. As you can tell, I'm super excited about it, because when you start doing detailing, that's where the car visually starts to pop. So I just feel like it's made a massive step forwards just to how the completed car is going to look. And I think the next video, or the next couple of videos, are going to be the ones that are really going to push the car forwards, because I'm going to be doing stuff like fitting the bumpers and the body kits, the little rear quarter badges, cleaning the glass up, and just giving the car wax and everything, and the car's really going to start looking like a 205 GTI. And when I can eventually get the car out of the garage, and do stuff like getting the wings fitted properly, because I need to open the door completely to get to the bolts behind them. So until it comes out of the garage, these are still going to be a little bit loose, but take it one step at a time. As for getting the car out of the garage, what's stopping it at the moment? Why is it not back on its wheels? A couple of things. Still waiting for the carriers for the brakes, the brackets to hold the calipers in, or the pads in. At the back here, there's some M8 Torx bolts I'm waiting to be arrived, so I can make sure the torsion bar is nice and secure. Waiting for track rod ends, the correct one, to come this time for the driver's side. And then when that's done, the car can hopefully be lowered onto the nice refurbished set of 1.6 alloys I have there. Before I do that though, I want to see what the car's like underneath. Well, I want to show you, I've had a look myself, but I want to show you how solid this car is. So I'm going to do a kind of a how much rust is there on this 205 GTI. So expect that in the next couple of weeks as well. But until then, as always, thank you for watching. And if you like this video, you know what to do. Give it a thumbs up, dislikes, thumbs down, and subs if you loved it. But until then, thank you all for watching. See you soon. And as always, take care.